Good evening, everyone. It is 5:33 p.m., August 24th, 2020, for the Moorhead City Council meeting this evening. Madam Clerk, can we please get a roll call?
Shelly Dahlquist.
Here.
Sarah Watson-Curry.
Here.
Shelley Carlson.
Here.
Heidi Durand.
Here.
Deb White.
Here.
Larry Seljevold.
Here.
Chuck Hendrickson.
Here.
Steve Lindos.
Virtually present.
And then in council, I have Acting City Manager Dan Molly, and then also on the phone, John Shockley, City Attorney, and then Mayor Jonathan Judd.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. The Moorhead City Council welcomes and encourages public input on issues listed on the agenda or of general community interest, time, and council permitting. Speakers are limited to 3-minute presentations. Advertised public hearings are scheduled so that the public is afforded an opportunity to speak. Public hearings are generally scheduled 15 to 30 minutes after the start of the meeting. However, the starting time may vary depending on other scheduled agenda items. Citizens wishing to address the mayor and council regarding a specific agenda item other than public hearings will be afforded an opportunity during the discussion of that item. Citizens wishing to speak on matters not listed on the agenda will be afforded the opportunity to do so under the heading Citizens Addressing the Council, usually scheduled at the beginning and end of the agenda. Each person requesting the opportunity to speak is asked to fill out a request to speak form. However, obviously, those that are not present, you can also be able to call our number, which is 299-5001. And at that phone number, you can either leave a message if there's not an answer, or if we have staff available, they will take your call at that time. And again, that number is 299-5001, area code 218. And I believe at this point in time, we've not had any calls, and I need to make sure to get my right agenda here. Okay, then that gets us to item number 3, agenda amendments. Any amendments to tonight's agenda?
No amendments tonight, Mayor.
Then we'll go on to item number 4, the consent agenda. Any items taken off consent for this evening?
No items have been asked to be taken off consent tonight.
Then ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Linda moves to approve. Or I'll second.
Madam City Clerk, did you catch one or both of those?
Got it.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Dahlquist.
Yes.
Watson-Curry.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Durand.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Seljevold.
Aye.
Hendrickson. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Lindos.
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll move on to item number 5, recognitions, presentations. 5A, proclamation for Women's Equality Day, and I will move it over to Councilmember Shelly Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you for allowing me to attend in person. I was really excited to be able to come in person because I had invited Marcus Kruger from the Clay County Cultural and Historical Society come and give a short presentation on the rights of the suffrage movement in notable Moorhead locations and people. So Marcus, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
I have a presentation that's coming up, I assume. Is it on now? Hey, okay. For the last 2 years, thank you so much for allowing me to talk here today and inviting me. For the last 2 years, the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County and the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley and some other volunteers like Council Member Shelly Carlson have been celebrating milestones on the road to women winning the right to vote a century ago this coming Wednesday. Unfortunately, COVID allowed us to cancel or at least change a lot of our plans, but we're going to keep up the suffrage centennial programming coming through this next time this year. So hopefully we can all be together on August 26th of 2021 for the 101st anniversary of the 19th Amendment. If we want to look at Moorhead's history of women's suffrage, we can start at the very foundation of our town. We probably all know Probesfield Farm and Probesfield School. It's named after an important a pioneer family of settlers who were in our area more than a decade before Moorhead was founded. The Probesfields were political radicals for their time, and one of the radical notions they held was that women were equal to men, and it's pretty dumb and unfair that they don't get to vote in this country. Cornelia Probesfield Gazelle, pictured here, was a daughter of the family born in Oakport in what is now Ward 1 of Moorhead, but she was born 3 years before the town existed. This photo is of her working for women's suffrage in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where she moved after she was married, but her son actually came back to Moorhead to take over Probesfield Farm as a young man. The people of Moorhead sent both her father, Randolph Probesfield, and her son, Ray Gazelle, to represent us in the Capitol in St. Paul. Moorhead had a history of electing suffrage-supporting politicians. The fight for women's suffrage was a state-by-state fight, and Moorhead was the center of our district's chapter of the Minnesota Women's Suffrage Association. This association had chapters all across the state that were run by women with the title of chairman. Our chapter had 4 or 5 chairmen working together at the same time, and I'll just introduce you to a few of them with the time we have here. Edith Darrow Godfrey was one of our local chairmen. If you walk around a lot, the name Godfrey might ring a bell. Her husband made concrete sidewalks, and you'll see his name plastered all over Moorhead's older neighborhoods and his stamp in the concrete. Edith was the daughter of an important founding family of Moorhead. So the suffrage fight was kind of Moorhead's second generation. So the daughter of, her dad was our pioneer doctor. Her mom was one of the founding members of the Moorhead Women's Club, which was a study group and an intellectual outlet for local women, also an important society thing. And Edith's family in Fargo were leaders of the suffrage movement over in North Dakota. Her aunt, Clara Dillon Darrow, was an early suffragist and the founding president of the North Dakota Votes for Women League. Aunt Clara's daughters, Elizabeth O'Neill and Mary Weibel, were also part of the movement in Fargo. Here's a picture of Edith's cousin, Mary, picketing for suffrage in front of the White House in 1917. And researching our town's place in the suffrage movement, I got to add a few people to my list of local heroes. Anna Leodahl Gates is one of them. She was one of the chairmen of the Minnesota Women's Suffrage Association, and soon after women gained the right to vote, she became Moorhead's first female police officer. And her role as, she was called police matron. She was a cop, but she was also city food inspector, and she did a lot of what we would think of as social work today. For instance, she organized the food and clothing drives for poor families struggling during the Great Depression. Margarita Garrity. She grew up on a farm in Iowa, went to college first at Iowa State University, then at Columbia in New York City. While there, she marched for women's suffrage in Washington, D.C. She came to Moorhead to teach in Moorhead Public Schools, and then became a chairman of our local group. The name Garrity is quite familiar around here. Margarita is the mother of Judge James E. Garrity and the wife of Judge James A. Garrity. There are so many names I could point out, but we probably just have time for one more. May Burnham. May was probably a toddler when her parents brought her to our town in the 1880s, when Moorhead was just about 10 years old. And when May was 10, her father tragically passed away. Her mother supported the family by running a boarding house on this location just behind the Kassenborg block. We have this narrative in America that women only went to work outside the home in the 1960s, but that's a myth. For one thing, women did a whole lot of work outside the home but didn't get paid for it. A lot of jobs that people now get paid for used to be done by women volunteers. But there were also always a whole lot of women working outside the home as teachers, like May Burnham. She taught in Moorhead elementary schools. Domestic servants, a lot of them. We had librarians, and women like Elsie Burnham, May's mom, who ran a boarding house. May took over the boarding house after her mother's death. The Burnham boarding house isn't there anymore, but in its place is now Third Drop Coffee, which recently had a name change because it's the third generation of women in a family to run this coffee shop. And I just thought that, isn't this appropriate? It's another generational woman-owned family business in this spot. And then I looked around the plaza and I see I'm surrounded by women-owned businesses. Places like Joni's Salon and Spa, River Zen, Prairie Fiber Arts, Inspire Innovation Lab, Rustica. There's a lot more of them there at that spot too. And in this building, 100 years after women received the right to vote, also in this building is the local office of one of our Minnesota's two women U.S. senators. And we are in this town with a majority women city council. And I just thought that May and Margarita and all the other suffragists would just be so proud of their town 100 years later. And if you want to know more about Moorhead and the suffrage movement, we at the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County put together a Moorhead Woman Suffrage walking tour with 11 sites on it that you can find on our website here or on our Facebook page. It might not be up there today because we've been doing a lot of stuff to mark the centennial month, including NDSU's Ann Broughton talking about women's clubs and the women's suffrage movement. And Council Member Deb White just last week gave a presentation about Nellie Griswold Francis, a Minnesota African-American suffragist. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus. And thank you, Mayor Judd, for allowing me to say a few words and giving me the great honor to read our official proclamation for the city of Moorhead. Although the 19th Amendment was a historic move in the United States, I do think it's important to note that it did not guarantee suffrage for all women. It was only for white women. Native Americans did not gain that right to vote from every state until 1962. Asian Pacific Islander Americans didn't gain their right until 1952. I'm sorry, Native Americans 1962, Asian Pacific Islander 1952, and many African American and Latin Americans didn't gain their voting rights until the passage of the Voting Rights of 1965 and 1975. So even though it's a great and momentous time, I think we also need to remember that not everyone really received it until like the late 1960s or mid-1960s, 1970s. However, a century after the 19th Amendment, half of the U.S. citizens, including 52% of men and 46% of women, say granting women the right to vote has been the most important milestone in advancing the position of women in the country relative to other notable events and achievements, and that's according to the Pew Research Center study. And women have largely exercised this right in every U.S. presidential election. Dating back to 1984, women have turned out to vote at slightly higher rates than men, according to analysis of Census Bureau data done by the Center. In 2016, our last presidential election, 63% of women who were eligible to vote said they cast ballots in the presidential election, compared to 59% of men. And that 4% point gender gap is similar to the 4-point gaps in 2012 and 2008. It's important to note, and Marcus already brought this up, that of the 100 largest cities in Minnesota, only 16 have a female majority on their city councils, and I'm so immensely proud to be one of those 16 cities. Moorhead is also the only city of its size in Minnesota that had a female majority on council and a female as a mayor, back when Mayor Delroy Williams was sitting in Mayor Judge's seat. 5 of 8 council members being women is a rare occurrence, not only in our state, but also across the country. And it only took a mere 132 years for this historic shift to occur. And because today the city of Moorhead and Mayor Judd is putting out a Women's Equality Day proclamation, I would be remiss if I didn't address the fact that there are still major gender discrepancies when it comes to equal pay, women's health, and paid maternity leave, just to name a few. But I did want to say a few words from American suffrages that started out with small seeds of motivation and inspired a movement that has dramatically altered our democracy for the better. I'm just going to read 3 quick quotes, and then I'm going to move on to the official proclamation. From Jeanette Rankin, "Men and women are like right and left hands. It doesn't make sense not to use both." From Susan B. Anthony, "It was we, the people, not we, the white male citizens, nor yet we, the male citizens, but we, the whole people, who formed the Union. Men, their rights and nothing more. Women, their rights and nothing less." And from the infamous Alice Paul, "I never doubted that equal rights was the right direction. Most reforms, most problems are complicated. But to me, there is nothing complicated about ordinary equality." And with that, I will read the official proclamation from the City of Moorhead, State of Minnesota. Whereas on January 10th, 1918, a constitutional amendment allowing women's suffrage was passed by the United States House, and whereas on June 4th, 1919, the United States Senate passed the 19th Amendment and sent it out to the states for ratification, and whereas on September 8th, 1919, Minnesota ratified the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, and whereas on August 26th, 1919, the 19th Amendment was certified as part of our Constitution, assuring that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state by account of sex. And whereas the 19th Amendment did not guarantee suffrage for all women, including Native Americans who did not gain the right to vote in every state until 1962, Asian Pacific Islander Americans gained their right in 1952, and many African American and Latin Americans gained their voting rights with the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and 1975. And whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation and our community in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women have been leaders, not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal equality, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other important movements. And whereas communities across the state are celebrating the passage and ratification of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, providing for women's suffrage, and now, therefore, Mayor Jonathan Judd did hereby proclaim August 26 to be Women's Equality Day, and did hereby call upon the people of our community and interested groups and organizations to safely observe August 26 as Women's Equality Day with appropriate ceremonies and activities to honor those who fought for promoting the values of our republic and women's suffrage. He further urged all people to use this occasion to reflect on the importance of achieving equal rights and opportunities for women and to dedicate themselves anew to that great goal. For the cause of equal rights and opportunities for women is inseparable from the cause of human dignity and equal justice for all. And he set his hand and caused the official seal of the city to be affixed on August 10th, 2020. Thank Thank you, Mayor Judd. Thank you, City Manager Dan Molly. And thank you to all my fellow women council members.
And thank you, Councilmember Carlson. Thank you, Mr. Kruger. Thank you for also to Councilmember White for telling the story, which is a ingrained part of our city's history. We're really, really proud to have that story be told and celebrated, but we all cannot forget the fact that we still have some work to do, as Councilmember Carlson alluded to, because there are still some disparities in our community and in our nation that still need some work to gain full equality in all aspects. So thank you. That moves us to item number 6 on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes, 6A, meeting minutes from August 10th, 2020. Are there any additions, corrections that need to be made to the minutes from August 10th? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Zelderald.
Second, Lindos.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk?
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Watson Curry,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Durand,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Seljevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindos.
Yes.
Motion carries. I want to go back real quick. Now I know why I was a little off when the meeting began, because my script was not the COVID-19 script. So that's why when I was reading, I was like, something doesn't sound right. So I'm not going to go through the whole script again, but to those at home, yes, we're still under an emergency declaration using virtual meeting technology due to COVID-19. Madam City Clerk, for the record, has read off the folks that are present, as well as those that are attending virtually online. And again, any public comment will be read as a part of the record while we're involved in our meeting. And again, we will also be taking public comment via email and through the number 218-299-5001. So I just want to make that clear that we are still under a COVID-19 emergency declaration. With that, item number 7, are there any citizens that wish to address the council? I'll turn to Madam City Clerk. Acting City Manager Molly, have we received any comments for any citizens that wish to address the council at this time?
None at this time.
None at this time, Mayor.
Okay, and for the record, we're asking based on phone calls or any other electronic means. Assuming there are none, we'll move to item number 9 on the agenda, which is a public hearing for special assessments, unpaid administrative penalties, and abatements. Is there a motion to take?
Councilmember Lindos moves opening public hearing.
Is there a second?
Dahlquist, second.
All right, Councilmember Carlson right beside me, say second, we'll give it to her. Madam City Clerk. roll call,
Dahlquist?
please.
Yes.
Watson Curry,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Durand, Durand,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Seljevold, Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindos.
Yes.
Motion carries, we're in public hearing. Ms. Leshovsky.
Mayor Judd, members of the council, the request of the council tonight is to hold a public hearing, and staff is recommending approval of special assessments related to unpaid administrative penalties and other maintenance actions from 2019. The assessments tonight are specifically for unpaid charges from 2019 related to property maintenance, rental registration, tree removals, and sanitation billings. The assessments allow for a 1-year repayment, except for petitioned tree removals, which are a 5-year repayment. As it relates specifically to property maintenance-related assessments, just a really brief overview of our process for that. The city operates under an administrative citation and penalty system, which was approved by the Clay County District Court in 2004 and has been utilized by the city since 2005. The process includes that someone would call in a complaint. The complaint would then be verified by a code compliance inspector. Once it is verified, a letter is sent or a placard is placed with a compliance timeline. In 2019, inspectors responded to about 850 requests, most of them related to snow, grass, garbage and debris, illegal parking, and non-operating vehicles. On average, about 95% of folks that get a some sort of violation, citation, do address it without any sort of penalty or follow-up required. But if a violation is not corrected, the property owner will receive a $100 penalty, and if it's related to snow or grass removal, we will send out a contractor and they will have to pay for that service as well. Before this hearing tonight, the folks that are on the list, about 99 again tonight, there are typically at least 2 reminder invoices sent to them before it gets to this point. I also just want to note that our goal is compliance and not fines. So if a property owner does receive an invoice or a property placard and they're just for whatever reason not able to meet that timeline, I would encourage them to call our inspectors. We will work with you to make sure that we come up with something that works for the neighborhood and gains compliance. I do want to point out on page 8 of the packet, there were 2 assessments that were adjusted between the advertisement and the hearing today, which are reflected in your resolution, and also that we have received 1 appeal. That appeal is for 1412 3rd Street South. The appeal centers around fees that were levied on the property related to a illegal rental registration and the property subsequently being sold. So the current owner of the property submitted an email that reads in part that she is appealing the outstanding bill for $1,100. She did not purchase or rent the property or move in until around November 2019 and does not feel that it is her responsibility to pay for the previous owner's mistake. The notice that she received was dated August 5th that was related to this hearing, and that's the only notice that she's received. And due to COVID-19, she's only working part-time and does not have extra money to pay this bill. So just supplement for that, the assessment resolution before you tonight does include that $1,100 unpaid administrative fines. Again, those were incurred because there was an illegal rental occurring at the property, which was verified. The previous owner then sold the property, and the new owner did not know about those penalties. The city council can remove these penalties from the resolution tonight. From a staff perspective, these are all administrative penalties, so there's no hard cost like a contractor invoice or anything like that. So we'd be supportive if the council does wish to remove these penalties, as that they were not incurred by the current property owner. If the council would like to pursue that, we would recommend that you include a statement in your motion to remove the assessments for 1412 3rd Street South. And welcome any questions that mayor and council may have.
Thank you, Ms. Leshovsky. I do see a couple hands up, Councilmember Lindos and Councilmember White.
Yeah, Kristie, you started to address this in the sense that if there's a change in ownership, if that occurs, I mean, what is this typical process that people have, in terms of if there's a change in ownership and a fine was incurred on the prior owner, but potentially not disclosed at sale?
That's a great question. I would recommend that anyone looking to purchase a property do visit the property information page for that particular address. These will be listed under pending, so they are noted as pending assessments. But unfortunately, it just so happens that there are times when people do not review that information. And so generally speaking, there's not a policy per se that's been used in previous circumstances related to this. It's just at council discretion.
So just to follow up, is it easier for then the new owners to take someone to small claims court, or would it be easier for the city to basically revert the fine to the prior owner, or is that something that would be difficult to do?
Well, the fine and the assessment that is on the resolution tonight is specifically to the property. So that's the administrative route that we have as the city to assess a fine to the property. In this case, the fines were not built up because of the actions of the current property owner. And so that's why she filed the appeal that you can then take action on if you so wish.
Thank you. That's all.
Councilmember White?
Thank you, Mayor. Kristie, I have a couple of questions. One is there a reason why we couldn't switch that and have the fine be tied to the original property owner? If not in this case, then I would think in the future of looking at changing the policy, because it really doesn't make sense to have it tied to the property and not to the person who committed who was responsible for this. And then I also wondered if we keep track, another question related to that is, does that person have rental property elsewhere in Moorhead? And then do we keep track of repeat offenders? So individuals who also had compliance issues in previous years, and is there any additional penalty? Have we explored things like that for cases where if we may have somebody who year after year we are assessing because of violations?
All right, I'm going to take those three questions starting at number 3, because I will ask John Shockley to comment on that first one. As far as penalties for repeat offenders, that is something that we're taking a look at. We're going to try to see, like I mentioned, 95% of our code compliance issues are taken care of by the property owner with no follow-up, but we do have ones that can be quite challenging. So we are currently reviewing some different techniques for potentially trying to get those more difficult and repeat offenders in compliance. I am not sure if the previous owner owns other rental property. I could certainly follow up with that. And as far as that first question, I know that state statute does provide us the option to levy the assessments against a specific property. And I would just ask John Shockley for any comments on, whether or not something could be done owner-specific if they no longer own property in Moorhead, or if we have any potential remedies for that. I don't know of any offhand.
Well, make sure everybody can hear me, but to be quite frank, our only ability to recapture all of these fees if the owners do not pay is through the special assessment process. The program was created years ago as a property maintenance program, and thus if the property is not being maintained, that's where the assessment goes. Staff over the years have done an outstanding job of tracking and making sure that if there is one of these instances, that we do identify it for the council before it goes to the assessment process. And so it's a good program. We've gotten authority from the courts to implement the program. It's been a model throughout the state. And when we do have these occasional outliers with the property being transferred and it not being caught by either the real estate agent or the buyer, we do make a recommendation to remove that from the list. So in my view, the policy of the city already has a safe harbor in it to protect against issues like this.
Thank you, John.
I'll just add that I would be in favor of removing the penalty for 1412 3rd Street South.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Does that bring about any other questions or comments? Councilmember Carlson?
I would move to close public hearing.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I will second that, Lindas.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk?
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Watson Curry,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Durand,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Seldgevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindos.
Yes.
Motion carries. We're now out of public hearing. Moving on to 9A, resolution to approve the 2019 special assessments that are unpaid. And do see Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the 2019 special assessments that are unpaid for administrative penalties and abatements. However, I would like to move to remove the assessment at 1412 3rd Street South.
Second, Deb White.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Madam City Clerk?
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Watson Curry, Watson Curry,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Durand,
Yes.
White, White,
Yes.
Seldgevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindos.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Leshovsky, for that update, and for bringing that forward. We'll move on to item number 10, Moorhead Cares Small Business Relief Grant Update. And is that back at you?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Ms. Leshovsky again.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm very excited to let you know that we've received about 140 applications from the Moorhead Cares Small Business Relief Grant application. That application portal opened on August 17th. It closes on August 31st. So if you are out in the community or we have anyone watching in the community tonight, please let other businesses know to check that out if they haven't done that yet. We are currently reviewing, we have a review team that's reviewing the applications as they come in because we do want to try to get this funding out as soon as possible. We're continuing to coordinate with Clay County, especially with different responses and questions that come in. They've been really great partners in this. And I also want to give a shout out to our IT department, the application portal and the review portal. I have no idea how they did it. It's genius. It makes it very easy from a staff and applicant perspective. So they did a fantastic job. Again, just encouraging any application submittals for businesses out in the community that haven't done so yet. And if you do have any questions, we have Moorhead Cares at cityofmoorhead.com. Go ahead and send us those questions and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, but it's going very well so far.
And my understanding is we still want to get the word out to let people know that we're still accepting applications.
Absolutely, through August 31st.
Does that bring about any questions or comments from council at all?
If I could, Mayor?
Yeah,
So I
please.
just loved it. I just want to thank the staff that's going through these 140 applications. It's just quite an initiative, and I mean, not just going through the applications, but there was a meeting, and they were talking about going into Moorhead businesses in person and making sure that they were applying and asking if they needed more information. There'd be questions. Every single one of them have been talking individually. So if we could all do that when we're in our favorite businesses, just mention, have you applied, or you care to know? It's online. They can pick up the phone and call us anytime, and I'm glad we're all getting after this together. So thank you, Kristie and team.
Thank you, Mr. Molly, for that. Councilmember Lindos, I saw your hand was up and now it's down. I wasn't sure if you had a question or comment to add.
Mr. Molly just did the comment that I was going to make. He did a fantastic job.
Great, no worries at all. Okay, and then Councilmember White took her hand out. Okay, so just want to make sure we got folks wanting to speak. Okay. And we'll move on to item number 11, which is a resolution to approve a partnership agreement with River Keepers for the canoe and kayak program.
So we have Holly Heitkamp on the line, but as we get started, I just want to say this is an exciting partnership. It's been in place for about 5 years, and we're formalizing this agreement for some of the exciting things that are happening along the river. This is the beginning of starting what we called Celebrating the River in our strategic plan. So with that, Holly.
Thank you, Mayor and members. The item before you tonight is a partnership agreement prepared by the City Attorney's Office that formalized the agreement that Parks Department has been having with riverkeepers to provide a canoe and kayak program and paddling excursions on the Red River. This agreement was requested by the risk managers for Riverkeepers Insurance Company as a way to formalize the details of this partnership that has been in existence for already 5 years. This program has been successful due to the strengths each entity brings to this arrangement. Riverkeepers owns approximately 90% of the equipment and provides the technical knowledge of the river and successful training to the city staff that provide the rental services. The city owns the rental shack and the launching area at Yumcumps Landing, and is able to provide the maintenance necessary to keep that landing clean and free of mud and debris when there's nuisance flooding. The city's insurance adjusters have reviewed and approved the rental agreements and waivers, as well as the policies and procedure manuals, and all the staff training guidelines have been gone through most recently. There's basically no additional cost to enter into this agreement, and really is to just formalize a great partnership that we have with Kristie and all the group at Riverkeepers, which consists of 2 people, which is why our partnership with the city and them is so vital. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Heitkamp, for that information. Does that bring about any questions or comments from council? Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Councilmember Lindos enthusiastically approves this resolution.
Carrie will also enthusiastically second.
All right, so we got a motion and we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk.
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Watson Curry,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Durand,
Yes.
White,
Absolutely.
Seljevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindos.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thanks, folks. Then that brings us to item number 15, which is a resolution to make Moorhead Home Property Tax Rebate Program through 2022. And we have Ms. Bode here.
Good evening, Mayor Judd and members of the City Council. I bring you a draft resolution to extend the Make Moorhead Home Property Tax Rebate for new construction of residential homes in Moorhead through December 31st, 2022. This is a program that we've had in place since 2009 after the flood, when the state funded a program for the city as a market recovery activity, and the city, the county, and the school district thought that there was great value in having that program after the state no longer funded it in 2012. And so we established a program that became self-funded, and yet we do have the program sunset every 2 years so that we can reevaluate the conditions that led us to offer the program in the first place. And so included within your materials tonight is a review of the existing program. And, while we know that some construction in Moorhead would likely happen without the incentive, we don't have a great way of measuring how much of that would happen without the incentive. We do know that just as there are border city issues for businesses. There are border city issues on choosing to live in Moorhead too. It's not as pronounced as it is with businesses, but we feel that the incentive is important because both Fargo and West Fargo have offered a new construction incentive as a growth and affordability incentive since the 1980s, I believe. And we feel that this program helps keep Moorhead competitive, and that for those home buyers that are new to our metro area and haven't experienced the great lifestyle and the value that comes from owning a home in Moorhead, what you get from your neighborhood and from your home and the services that are provided, there is a cost differential just because of things that are beyond local control. And this is one opportunity then to allow people to experience that and get in, and it might overcome some of those financial arguments against choosing Moorhead. The Home Builders Association has provided a letter of support for the program. Their board voted on that last Tuesday, and you'll find a letter addressed to the City Council as well as to the school district and to the Clay County Commission in support of the program. And while this program, does offer an incentive, and taxes are returned to the home buyer those first 2 full years of valuation. Each year of the program, one more group of homes comes back on the tax rolls. So the net cost estimated in 2021 for the program is $62,469. So because it's a 2-year program, there is a net cost, but it's 1 year's worth of valuation for the program. So within the materials, the review, you can see single-family housing trend lines. Moorhead's highs haven't been as high as the metro area. We have had pretty steady growth this year. Through the month of June 2020, we have 71 housing starts. I did notice there have been a few new ones that have come in more recently, but we do feel this is important to the development community, the building community, and to prospective residents. And so we are recommending approval. And if the City Council approves the program tonight, we have presentations scheduled with the school board and the Clay County Commission on September 8th. So with that, I'll ask if there are any questions for me and what other information you might like to know.
Great, thank you. Councilmember White has her hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. Lisa, I fully support the program. I think it's great. The one thing I wanted to say, though, is I would very much like us to look into developing a parallel program for first-time homeowners who are taking on existing homes that need substantial remodeling. This is a great program, but it doesn't necessarily serve our urban core. If we look at our established neighborhoods that, we have older homes, there's not space there to put in new homes. And these are homes that could be great for first-time home buyers. But a lot of times when you buy those places, you're also purchasing a house that needs some substantial work. So it could be new furnace, new roof, and things like that. And being able to provide incentives for that could make home ownership much more affordable for families starting off who want to join our community. It would also help and put less strain on our infrastructure, work at bringing people into established areas rather than, spreading out farther and farther away. And so I wanted to make sure I got that on the record, that I would really like to see us having something. I love the first and new, but I would like a comparable first and old as well to really help to make that housing, home ownership affordable for folks that are looking to move into our urban core.
And if I might address
Please,
that question, Mayor Judd, Councilmember White, we had a a similar program, not limited to first-time home buyers, for preservation and remodeling of homes. And it required a value increase of $25,000. And it was very, very difficult to implement, and it was phased out about 2 or 3 years ago, I would say, maybe even a little bit more. It was very difficult for property owners to come up with, their value wasn't increased that to the extent that, that was required to have the program, and the impact on taxes was minimal. A $25,000 increase in property value does not result in a significant amount of a rebate. And so that program was discontinued, but we can certainly, and the state of Minnesota used to have a program too. It was called This Old House, and I took advantage of it when I had my first home. And so I think we can continue to look at what opportunities there might be beyond the Neighborhood Impact Program, which offers very low interest financing through Gate City Bank. That's one of the tools that we have to address that incentive for home ownership, or for reinvesting in existing neighborhoods. But we're certainly open to learning more and exploring more about what other incentives there could be for, as you note, it is less expensive to reinvest in core existing neighborhoods where the infrastructure is already there. So, point well taken.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Lindas, your hand is up.
Yeah, so Rob, you already answered much of my question, so I guess to echo what Councilmember White said, some kind of urban renaissance, zone would be really interesting to implement, and potentially to pay attention to a lot of the homes need energy retrofits and other things to actually make them much more comfortable and affordable to live in. And so I think that you mentioned a lot of the programs that I would like to see somehow become available to our urban core.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lindas. Councilmember Seljevold, and Councilmember Seljevold. Someone else's hand dropped, so.
Yes, I like what Deb White had said. And, the threshold that used to hit 25,000. If you look at what the Home Builders Association had sent out in 2020, the remodeling averaged just over $10,000. So 25, it seems like a very high number to try to reach. So most of those remodels are in the 10,000 range. The year before, it's about in the $12,000 range. One of the other things I would be interested in knowing is that the whole metro area gives a tax abatement or rebates. So what are the other factors involved in why people are not choosing Moorhead, choosing West Fargo, for whatever reason? I mean, that's a pretty in-depth study, but that would be very curious to know in approximately 2 years when this comes up for a vote again. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Seljevold. Are there any other questions or comments from council? Ms. Bode, Mr. Malley, anything else to add? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then with that, is there a motion to approve?
Dahlquist, so moved.
White seconds.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Madam City Clerk.
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Watson Curry,
Yeah.
Carlson,
Yes.
Durand,
I'm going to abstain because I'm a beneficiary of the program.
White,
Yes.
Seljevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindas.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Ms. Bode, for your work and research and diligence in keeping this program going. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So that brings us to item number 18, Mayor and Council reports. Any council members have anything to report?
JJ, I do. This is Heidi.
Yep. Yep.
If I can jump in. I have a report from the Human Rights Commission I attended last week. I gave a presentation to the commission regarding payday loans. I've been working with Kristie Leshovsky and our attorney's office, and we have drafted an outline that would create a new license requirement for all payday lenders in the city of Moorhead. I don't know, Dan, were we able to get that draft sent out to the council? Have they had a chance to look at it?
Not yet. We will after tonight.
Okay, well, I was hoping they would have had a chance to look at it tonight, but really, in brief, what it does is it requires payday lenders to file for and apply and pay for a license from the city. The minimum standards for a license would make some requirements from the lender, such as no more than 2 loans of $1,000 per person per calendar year, no more than a 33% APR, a minimum repayment requirement of 60 days, itemization of all fees and charges, a limitation or a ban on all rollovers, and they would need to report to us annually the total number of loans issued per calendar year, the total dollar over and above the principal, the average APR, and the state of origin for borrowers. And the reason why this has been brought up is because Moorhead, Clay County in particular, but Moorhead is the only place in Clay County that has any of these borrowers. We are second capita in the number of loans that are taken out annually from these I call them predatory lenders. Many people get stuck in a trap where they expect, if they take out a $100 loan and they've made 2 $50 payments, that they've paid their loan. But what lenders don't often do is explain how if you don't pay it all within the first payday period, it rolls over and you owe additional fees and additional rollover costs. And so people end up in this trap where they're continually reborrowing on a small loan, which sometimes a $40 loan can end up being $400 by the time people are done paying. In Clay County in 2018 and 2019, just in interest, the city of Moorhead potentially, our local economy lost about $200,000 each year in just the interest that people paid on these loans. And now with COVID and unemployment benefits being tapped, we're very concerned that more of our friends and families are going to be resorting to these types of institutions. So we just need to hold them more accountable. We're not banning them by any means. We are just hoping to rein them in a little bit and make them more accountable. And so our friends and neighbors, our most financially vulnerable, which is becoming more and more people these days, are not being taken advantage by these payday lenders. So I presented this to the HRC last week. They unanimously supported it. Everyone voted in favor of recommending it. I would really like to bring this to council for a formal action. If you would all, give a head nod, I think we could get it on the agenda for our next meeting. and I'm happy to share any of the, if you want any information, I'm happy to share more than happy to share all the volumes of information I have on the issue. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Durand. I know, as I'm looking at Acting City Manager Molly, who wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, very shortly. So, and I know it was a good Human Rights Commission meeting. We heard from a couple of Human Rights Commission members too, excited about this ordinance. And City Attorney Shockley and Kristie Leshovsky have written up a really good draft, and the plan is to bring that to you unless there's objection at the next council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Molly, for that. I do see 2 hands up, and I'm not, it's Councilmember Seldervold, Councilmember Watson Curry. Are these related to your own reports, or is this related to Councilmember Durand's report? Now I only see Councilmember Watson Curry. Is that, do you have a comment regarding her report or something different?
Just my own report.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Do we have any comments or questions related to Councilmember Durand's report?
I think we need a head nod or thumbs up or something.
I can't see everybody. I see 1, 2, I see 3. I see at least 2.
Councilmember Linda supports that.
There we go. So we got 3, okay. All right, I think I'm seeing some head nods from at least a few folks. Unfortunately, my WebEx, I can't click on my screen to move the arrow over. So if there's, I guess, any objections, hearing.
Thank you all for your support. It's greatly appreciated.
And thank you for your work, Councilmember Durand. I know you've been very passionate about this and have done a lot of research in this matter, and so thank you for your willingness to get involved in this.
Yeah, well, and thank you to Kristie too, and John, because they have spent a lot of time on state statutes and best practices and what other cities have done. So, shouts out to them too.
Absolutely, and thank you both for your work in this as well. All right, then we'll move on to Councilmember Watson, unless you have more to report, Councilmember Durand. Okay, then we'll go to Councilmember Watson Curry. Your hand is up.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to just thank our city clerk and her team for executing a successful primary. And I do, sorry, I just keep putting city clerk Christina Rust on the spot, but I wanted to say thank you. And I also wanted to just highlight 2 things. One is I've had a number of folks reach out and ask about a drop site for ballots, and I know that there's one at the county courthouse, and there's been questions if it's possible to add one at City Hall. I know the layout of our building is not ideal for that, but that's question 1. And question 2 is there still a need for more election judges, and if so, where do you send them? Give them your number. And then I have a couple other things I'd love to share, but if Christina wouldn't mind answering those things, I would appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. First of all, thank you so much to everyone for their support. We do have a really great team, and again, I've said I could not do this all by myself. So, and I just appreciate the support from the council. These elections are a ton of work. They just really are, and it's so great to have just people supporting us and kind of give us the extra boost that we need to get through them. In terms of the drop box, that question was put out to the county. That is something that the county would make the decision on. I know that the county auditor, Lori Johnson, will be getting back to me on that. I haven't heard anything final on that. Election judges, yes. We do need more. And if you actually go to our website, and I apologize, I'm going to pull it up just so I can tell you the exact clicks. So cityofmoorhead.com, under the How Do I, it's not really apply for, but it's under the Apply for A, and there is an election judge link there. You will fill out that form, and that will send something automatically to us, and we will get the training to you, and we will be in contact with you. So yes, we still need people, and this being a presidential general election, it will be a big big turnout. I did actually just get a call from the county, and they were just sort of looking at beginner numbers, and it looks like about 1 in 3 people have actually filled out the application for absentee voting, which is phenomenal. So it does keep our numbers down at the polls, but still the votes are, people are out voting, which is phenomenal. So again, if you need to contact them for absentee voting, that number is 218-299-5006. And again, you can always reach out to the city clerk's office at 299-5304 with any questions also.
And keep in mind, I want to add, Attorney Shockley did say a few meetings ago that city council members were tasked with going out to recruit election judges. So I think that task is still out there. And if City Attorney Shockley wishes to speak on that, so I think there is still the ask for us to to take care of some of that responsibility in going out and finding election judges from a broad base of the spectrum. So let's make sure we're doing our part as well. So thank you. And I think, Councilman Watson-Kerr, I'm not sure if Madam City Clerk had answered all of your questions, but I just wanted to drop that for sure.
I appreciate that. A couple other things that I just wanted to share. I was able to attend a webinar, and I know a couple other council members there was a large turnout. It was so I know Councilmember White and Councilmember Lindos were there, and I apologize, there was hundreds of people attending, but United Way's Emerging Leaders offered a webinar. It was targeted, their audience was how to be an ally, so a guide at addressing racism in the workplace. And it was a really excellent primer. It provided, the trainer provided a great introduction to language and was very clear on the way in which the filters at which she is viewing the world. So I just wanted to share say thanks to United Way for extending the offer for us to join. And if that's something that we could consider hosting for our staff and electeds, possibly something that could be tagged into strategic planning, I think it would be really worthwhile. Again, just, it doesn't solve everything, but it provided an excellent base knowledge of the language needed to discuss as we continue to view things through a diversity and inclusion lens. So thanks for that. 2 other things I wanted to note is the League of Minnesota Cities had posted that the Post Board, which is the Peace Officer Standards and Training Board, is seeking public comment for potential rule changes. And the public comment, I had a hard time finding a link that succinctly shares it. It's kind of nestled in a few different things as far as Minnesota rules. But they are accepting comments. And if you had questions, Rebecca Gaspard is the contact for the rules. She's the Rules and Legislative Coordinator for the state, and her number is 651-201-7781. I don't know if that's something that we as a city can share, but in my tenure, I've never seen, have never taken note at least of any public input opportunity for the Post Board. So I just think that is a really unique opportunity and would like to kind of spread the word on that. And the last thing that I wanted to share too, I've been thinking a lot about our neighbors, and I know everyone's been taking advantage of what they can outdoors right now, but I do worry a little bit about everyone's physical and mental well-being in the winter. And one thing that our neighborhood, my own neighborhood, has been talking about is the potential of taking the steps to make a more formal neighborhood block club. So not a book club, but you can start a book club if you want to. Generally, Night to Unite, which has been canceled this year, is an opportunity for neighbors to gather, put a face to an address, really. And so I just wanted to put the plug out to encourage our residents to think about taking those steps to form a neighborhood block club. so we can keep tabs on each other in these long months ahead. This is, COVID has certainly provided a lot of challenges in our education, in our income. So just, making sure that you have, and any opportunity we have to check in on each other would be great. Leanne Wallen is the community policing coordinator, and she is just such a joyful person. You'll be happy to give her a call. Her number is 701-451-7660, and actually that's just a dispatch number. But if you search for Night to Unite, there is a portal to link. There's some literature as far as like basic kind of 101 for block parties, but also a contact form. So if you needed any support in formally making that happen, or informally, but Leanne's a great resource, and I just want to encourage people to reach out and, share your numbers with your neighbors, know what's going on a little bit. So that's all I have, and thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Councilmember Watson-Curry, for your words, also for discussing the United Way webinar. From what I heard, it was a really, really good one. So thank you for attending that. Councilmember White, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to very briefly welcome back our college students. And it's a little different this year, but we do have students who are coming back to campus, and some of them are in person and some of them are at other locations. But I know that while it's not going to be the same as in previous years, it's always great to have them back in our community. And I know with students that I met with this week, I encourage them to find ways to really explore, especially if they're new to Moorhead, to check out our great parks and trails. And I just think if there are ways that any of us can just reach out and make them feel welcome, that would be great. These are folks that often, this is their introduction to Moorhead, but it might become their lifelong home. And then I just wanted to share that I had a resident who was really excited to hear about the wraps that we're doing on our benches and a few boxes with the art from our high school students. And they were looking for an update. So I wanted to see if we could provide an update on when those will be available so that people can go out and check them out and see the great artwork from some of our high school students.
Thank you, Councilmember White, for that. Yes, students are back. So it's that time of year, and it's good. And I'll show some thanks to also faculty and staff and administrators for doing what needs to be done to keep our colleges a safe environment for folks too. So thank you for sharing that. Any other council members wish to be heard on any updates or anything that they're involved in? Okay. I thank you all for sharing. I'll just bring up a couple of things real quick. Last Friday, met with the Minnesota mayors together. Executive committee met with Governor Walz and Governor Flanagan virtually. Really the three, or I guess two, big topics for discussion. It wasn't a very long meeting, but one was, three. One was broadband in rural Minnesota, greater Minnesota, and I think this group is going to help start. I know there's been a lot of discussion over the years about expanding broadband to greater Minnesota. I think now this group's going to push that forward because obviously it's going to be a big investment in our economic infrastructure here. So I think that group's going to utilize its, I guess it's whatever you want to call our group, to try to push that initiative forward, because we know that as we're growing here in Clay County, our outer county towns, as well as the towns in greater Minnesota, really need to have that access. And we're seeing a lot of disparity in our educational systems, where now with COVID-19, we have a lot of folks at our colleges and our rural towns that are really driving right up to the colleges late at night to do homework because they don't have access to broadband within their homes and their towns. So this is something that will be a big investment for the future. So I appreciate Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan for listening to our stories that push that forward. Also, there was a mask update. I was happy to say that I think, as far as my perspective and hearing from others, that in Moorhead, we're doing very well with masking in our local businesses and throughout our community. Also, there was a bonding bill update. We're just trying to see what happens with that. We've got, thank you to Miss Lisa Bode also for helping us out. We do have a big ask going down to St. Paul to hopefully remind folks that in greater Minnesota we have a various amount of projects that we need to get funded. So hopefully our voices will be heard and we'll move those things forward. I think the only few things to bring up again, one met with MetroCog, no major business took place there. And also to echo Councilmember White's comments, also a big thank you to the administration of our colleges here in town, also to the Moorhead Public School District coming up. Obviously, we have students that are coming back. Also, we have a faculty and staff. I realize these are really hard times right now when we're trying to juggle a lot from a professional and personal standpoint. I do want to send a big debt of gratitude and thanks for the leaders of our colleges, as well as Superintendent Lunick and the administrators and the faculty and staff within our school district. Obviously, we're all working together as a community to try to keep our community safe and healthy. I did have a meeting with a few of the college leaders. There will be an ongoing meeting throughout the rest of the year. We're going to have to pivot, folks, and be flexible. Obviously, things are what they are right now. They could change in September and October, but please be rest assured that we as a community with our leaders and our educational system, we're all going to keep each other in the loop when these things change. And so we're going to work together to really try to make sure that, again, our community are making decisions that are in the best interest of our safe wellness of our students and our families. So a big thank you there too. Other than that, I don't have any other report. Oh, one more thing. On Wednesday, the 26th, over the noon hour, the NPR will be having a open Zoom forum with, I believe, Commissioner of Public Safety Booker Hodges, myself, and I should have pulled up Candace's name. I'm going to try to find that out. I believe she's out of the Twin Cities. I believe it's Candace Armstrong. And I'll pass it over to Mr. Molly because I might have her name incorrect, but I want to make sure. But nevertheless, there is a individual out of the Twin Cities, and we're going to be discussing the future of policing. So it should be an interesting topic, and that will be conversations all over the state to discuss what does policing look like in our state after the George Floyd incident. And so when I have a moment to look up Candace's last name, I'll give another follow-up on that. But other than that, I'll pass it over to Acting City Manager Dan Molly.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a theme here tonight. So it's back to school time, and but what a strange time it is. And I was looking at a wall calendar. The theme for August was caring, and the bold words at the top said, "Rise by lifting others." And this is what educators do. They lift others, and in turn, they become better teachers and better human beings. So I guess I'm thinking, let's use these strange circumstances to find new ways to teach, to learn, and connect. And just a word of thanks to all the teachers for doing what you do and the lives that you touch. The second is that National Suicide Prevention Week is September 6th to the 12th. That's before our next meeting. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's theme this year is simple and important. Keep going. And so, as we care for our own mental health and cope with uncertainty, it's as important as ever to reach out, to check in, and take steps to prevent suicide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Molly, for that. Much important during this time as well. And for folks, I did find out, and I apologize, the name is Miss Montgomery, Candace Montgomery, who is the co-director of Black Visions Collective out of Minneapolis. And so there will be, if you go to NPR, there will be a registration link where you have to register for the webinar if you're interested in listening to the conversation. If you cannot make it on Wednesday, it will be replayed again on Thursday. So, thank you. We gave a city manager report, no executive session. Is there any new business to bring before the council this evening? Any citizens that wish to be heard or to address the council? Have we received anything via phone or electronic communication? Madam City Clerk, Mr. Molly?
None.
Oh. All right. Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember White. Sorry, I didn't see your hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to go back. I think I wasn't clear enough. I was asking a question in my report. I had some citizens who just wanted to know if we can get an update on when the bench wraps might be done.
Oh, my apologies.
That's okay.
Ms. Leshovsky, sorry about that. Councilmember
Mayor
White.
Judd, Councilmember White, they're currently in production, and so we're working to make sure that the firm that's going to be installing them has them placed correctly on the bench to make sense. But we anticipate that they will be installed, I would say, within the next 4 to 6 weeks, potentially before, but they're currently in production at the design company.
Thank you. Then I move to adjourn.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Lindos will second.
Motion's made and seconded, and we are adjourned. Good night, Moorhead. Thank you, everyone.